Hello, everybody. Welcome to the new year. We've got a couple of patch resolutions for you all to lock in for 2026. But yeah, let's just cue the music.
Dive in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another fun Patch Tuesday. I've just got Seth here with me today, and we're just gonna go down a list of some of the interesting and cool things we found, or the boring and actually exploited ones that we've found. Yeah. So I'll kick it off first here with CVE 2026-21265. This one is fun, and by fun I mean it's going to be a bit of a hassle this year for pretty much any sysadmin, any security team. It's a secure boot certificate expiration bypass. Now, for those of you who don't know, and I didn't frankly realize this myself, Microsoft's original 2011 root of trust certificates expire in June and October of 2026. It's crazy. I didn't even realize this vulnerability existed like this, but basically what it is, the certificates that sign almost every single Windows bootloader since Windows 8 are set to expire. So if you bought a motherboard or a computer anytime between 2012 and 2025, like you've got to get it updated. So basically how the rollout goes from what I've seen here is Windows is going to push out some OS patches and patch what they can on their end, and then patch, like from the software side, and I think maybe any OEM BIOS updates that they can touch from Windows updates, they'll probably do. So what does that mean for everybody else? That means we all have to go around and scramble and figure out what BIOSes we have in our environment and either manually update it or find some way to remotely do so. It's really interesting because basically this vulnerability exists if one or the other isn't done. So BIOS updates, Windows updates, both need to exist, or you are vulnerable to this. I mean, very critical hardware level root of trust issue. It's a temporal vulnerability, so there's just really no way to shake this one. You need to audit your hardware flat out. And some BIOSes will probably require like a manual acceptance of the new UEFI certificates that they rolled out in 2023. The one thing you're not going to want to do, I know a lot of people are probably going to think about this immediately and go, I'll just disable secure boot. Like that'll solve the issue. It'll be easy, be good. But that invites even worse, like bootkit installation issue, vulnerabilities.
If that you need secure boot and TPM turned on to actually even get into Windows 11 anyway. So
yeah, I'm more than I think so. I think I've bypassed it before, but I can't speak to that completely. But thinking about people who are like legacy running like Windows 10 and have like those extensions and things like that, and God help anyone still running Windows 8. But yeah, I would just be aware of like any upcoming like Windows updates, and just I would start that. That's the resolution for the year. You've got 6 months, possibly 9 if you are lucky enough to have a cert that's expiring in October. But yeah, you're gonna want to start doing that now. If you can slow roll it now, it's gonna be a lot better than last minute doing this. But
yeah,
basically, if you don't, like, easy initial accesses and rootkit injections will be so just prevalent in this. And there's lots of CVEs even on this list that could be chained to do so. Like someone could use CVE 2026-21265 to prevent the system from updating its forbidden signature database, and then just drop a rootkit in there, like easy peasy. There's just so many things that someone could do to chain and get access and manipulate this whole situation. But be aware that this is like the big one to be aware of for the year, I would say. Patch your operating systems, patch your BIOSes or BIOSes for the intellectually inclined. But yeah, so I'll move off of that crisis and let Seth talk about something possibly more interesting or possibly more exploited.
Yeah, we'll see. So the one I'm going to talk about today is CVE 2026-20816. It's a Windows installer elevation of privilege. And thinking about it now, I feel like I talk about elevation of privilege almost every time I speak. But this one is actually a TOCTOU, which is time of check and time of use. I don't believe we've spoke about one of these yet. So basically what that does is the system checks for something to see if it's safe. And then like a split second later, it uses it. So then that's where the attacker gets in and it changes that in between. So basically got like, a bouncer checks your wristband at the door, then you swap jackets with somebody else before entering. Like that's kind of the analogy you want to use for this.
This feels like it's rooted in a real story, but I'm going to let that slide.
Yeah, not here. So what's happening with this CVE? So this one actually, the attacker is already on the device. So, local authenticated. And then when they trigger the Windows installer workflow that performs the privilege file operations, they try to like win the race, so that the privileged action targets something they can control and not what the installer originally checked. So that way, they're manipulating what they need to get system access. So, why target the Windows installer? It's a pretty juicy target, So the installer routinely it writes files, updates services, sets permissions, touches protected system locations. So attacker can redirect one or multiple of those rights, and it becomes a stepping stone to full control. So system level access, which I talk about almost every time on these podcasts. So everybody should know by now that is the highest privilege that you can get. That's full system access, and that is high impact because of enterprises specifically assume that users' malware may land on the endpoints, and the that converts a foothold into a takeover, if that makes sense. So basically, this whole thing to say like they're utilizing that Windows installer. Which typically, like just like your MSI installers, things like that, they're taking a brief second in time where it's doing a check, and that's where they take over and they write what they want, therefore elevating to system privileges. So that's really about it.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that that's yeah. I mean, yeah, we always talk about elevation of privileges, but like, I mean, they're one of the scarier things that can occur on, especially like a user's like device. Like, I mean,
yeah, I mean,
you go around, yeah.
In the enterprise environment, I mean, you get one person that gets popped, and they start moving laterally. They're looking at other systems that might be vulnerable, and if somebody already has like, something like a domain admin role, something like that in a big enterprise, then you're in real trouble, because then, they can start exploring, and then they find, servers and things like that. If there's, stuff on-prem, and with domain level access or domain admin level access, I mean, that's the keys to the whole kingdom right there. You can do literally whatever you want. So, they are very important, especially if they hit the the right privilege user, like system admins, or even a desktop level technician that might have too many permissions. It's all bad.
That's something you and I have both worked in multiple large organizations in our career, and there's always that permission sprawl. There's always like, as much as we would love for people to not have admin access on their computers. There are plenty of IT teams out there who are like, it's just easier. It's just easier to let them like install stuff and do this, and as long as we patch it and manage this, like it just it's so prevalent, and I don't know. Anytime one of these comes up, I feel like it's always worth mentioning, especially if it's been caught being exploited in the wild, which I think this one was. Was it?
Not that this one hasn't been exploited in the wild yet. It is just like
Okay.
a more than likely one to get exploited.
Yeah. And so it's just always good to bring that front of mind for anybody. It's just like, we don't want to make you sweat, but like if your permissions are wild, like you should probably sweat a little bit on these updates.
Yeah,
But
you got to practice least privilege.
yeah, that's always like, I feel like that's the hardest thing for any IT admin to like get pushed across. Like every place I've been to, we've tried to do like, hey, do you really need admin privileges on there? You remove it, and then it's an immediate like help desk nightmare for people. So yeah, but yeah, any other ones, or we closing out with that one?
I mean, there is one we can talk about briefly because I mean it has been exploited in the wild. Is CVE 2026-20805, and then this one is it's an exposure of sensitive information to an unauthorized actor in desktop Windows Manager. This
Yeah,
one is it has been exploited in the wild, and just a real brief like this. The desktop window manager is the Windows component that draws and composites your desktop and communicates with other processes using a local IPC system called ALPC.
yeah,
We meat and potatoes all this one, but the one for this one that you got to watch out for is it can break containers if it um, elevates its privileges. You can actually get a scenario where you're in the desktop window manager, like in a virtual environment, and then you can actually break free from that if you exploit this vulnerability.
yeah. And I would say they probably don't even really need admin rights to accomplish this. It just needs the ability to draw a window on the screen, which every app can do. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah. That's the thing with this is like it that does like a lot of the just main Windows functions, with actual like the actual Windows, like Explorer stuff like that, draw stuff on screen.
Yeah,
And that has a lot of admin privileges already baked into that system because it requires that to run.
yeah. I would say with this one, I know not everybody has the same patch cadence. Some people do like a -1 kind of thing, and if you have to keep any systems around or unpatched for this one, maybe just put better detection around the twm.exe on your Windows devices. Look for unusual memory spikes or crashes. It can just be a standard side effect from an unstable exploit attempt, but other than that, do your best to patch, because yeah, it is pretty dicey there. Yeah, but yeah, um, that's all I've got for today. Hope you all have a great year. Hope we're starting off right, and patch your stuff.
Yep. Patch up, and we will see you next time.